Welcome to Keepin' It Real, where we feature entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who participate in our guest blog on shareyourstories.online. We have a returning guest, Cyrstal Marie Seeley, author of The Brave Little Pufferfish. And now that her book has launched, we're going to share some of the reviews she's received from people of all ages. Cyrstal Marie joins us from Montreal, Quebec. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we had the pleasure of being part of your original marketing campaign for the launch, and I'm going to show the cover of the book, The Brave Little Pufferfish.
Yes.
And one of the things that we did is we hosted a giveaway and asked for book reviews. So that's really the premise for us getting together today, is to talk about some of the success that you've had with the launch of your book.
Yes,
so give us a little bit of the background, Cyrstal Marie. How's it been going? I mean, clearly things have been well received. You have oodles of wonderful 5-star reviews, which we're going to share with our viewing and listening audience today. But so tell us a little bit about the buzz behind the scenes.
So it's been interesting. I'm a strategist, so it's been really difficult for me not being able to strategize and do this the way I normally would, because I'm a stay-at-home mom full-time. But I still managed to leverage my connections, and because I'm a warm connector, I tend to try to build sound relationships, genuine relationships, before I do anything else. And so it was really those connections and friends and family that hit the ground running with those books, and it was word of mouth that got it out there. And your video had, in 2 days, was it 1,000 views?
1,500 views! Is that not fantastic?
Exactly. That was very surprising.
Yeah,
and I mean, in marketing, we know that is not the norm. So I'm really blown away by that. And the fact that people took the time to write reviews, it's usually pretty difficult to get people to spare some time to write reviews. Mm-hmm. And as you've seen, the reviews that we got have been they were based on something deep. It wasn't just, pretty colors and frills. It was real. So
that's so true.
Exciting. Yes.
That's so true. With a book on authenticity, the reviews that you got were authentic.
Yes, that was wonderful.
Right? I mean, talk about serendipity and how things kind of come together.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we did is we did a book giveaway, and we made it random. And lo and behold, who wins the book but one of your college classmates who lives from the same place that you were born and raised in, which is Trinidad and Tobago. So before I read Shreya's review, which is obviously with the consent and help of her mom, who's 8 years old, tell us a little bit about your relationship with her mom, because now she has 3 kids.
Yeah. So, hi, Vani. This is actually really just out of the blue. We've lost touch, but we've always had a genuine connection. Sometimes you go to university and the competition sets in before the relationships do. But Vanya is never like that. She's really intelligent. She's really sharp. She's doing her PhD now. She's a teacher. She's a mom of 3. I don't know when she sleeps, but she's still that same warm, vibrant person. She was always there to lend an ear. She was never in the competition game. And she just always was very warm and very on top of things. Like, you could talk to her about anything and she was there.
Isn't wonderful?
Yes. And it's also nice to be able to pick up with people after decades and just speak freely. Like, we still connect, Facebook one-offs here and there, but just to have a genuine conversation that just started where we left off after so many years was really
Isn't that nice? To see the universe was speaking and put the 2 of you back together again.
I really think
let's read Shreya's review. So it says, the book, The Brave Little Pufferfish, makes me feel secure and good about myself, even though I am different to others. Being different makes me special. I have learned from this book that it's okay to be unique from others. I always questioned why I'm a bit different. I would stare at my reflection and wonder, asking myself, why don't I look like my friends? This book made me realize that I am perfect the way I am, and I should not change myself to blend in with others. And Shreya is 8 years old.
I know.
Well,
That's
isn't
so deep
that,
for an 8-year-old.
isn't it kind of brings you a little tears to your eyes
Yes,
when you,
it does a little
doesn't
bit.
it?
Yes.
Seriously? I
Yes.
mean, when you
Yeah.
connect with a young person on
Yeah.
that level, and I obviously your book has been shared with her sisters and your
Yeah.
friend who obviously read it. So
Yeah.
what a wonderful book review to have received. Now, for our viewing and listening audience who's joining us for the first time, you actually wrote this book for your daughter.
I did, yes. My little one is 4.5 years old, but I wrote it when she was 3, and I just finally published it last November.
Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't that amazing? Now, give us a little bit of insight into I mean, everyone asks the question, well, why, right? I mean, and we all think that writing a children's book is so easy, and you and I know that that's not the case.
Not the case.
But what was the motivation for writing the book?
So I had made up this story for her. We were playing with her Play-Doh stencil sets. Like, I don't know if you know all those animal shapes,
Oh,
but
yeah,
they,
they were around when I
yes,
was little.
exactly. So with those animal shapes, she asked me to tell her a little story about the pufferfish. And so I told the story, but then lately she's been asking us to tell the story again and again and again. And she notices that it keeps changing. So I thought I'll just write it down. And then I thought if I could write it down, then I could make it a book. Because then she had asked me to draw it too. And so I started drawing it. And I'm like, yeah, I could do this. But then you realize that there are all these restrictions around books. So they can't be more than 500 words if they're to be taken seriously. They have to be, if they're picture books, they can't have too many words on each page, and they still have to be less than 32 pages. So you almost have to work miracles and use your pictures to do everything.
Wow.
So I really did this for her. It was a labor of love because, yes, I wouldn't have otherwise.
Well, let's share, because I'm actually rather impressed that you were also the illustrator for the book.
Yes, yes.
So I'm going to show you a picture, our viewing and listening audience, a picture from the book. So here is a picture of the family of pufferfish, and of course we have one here that's puffed up, and the little guy here is also puffed up, but our main character is not. Yes. So he has to learn a little bit about why he can't be a pufferfish. Like, he's a pufferfish, but he's not puffing up.
Puff up. Exactly.
So that's a really cool way to make a connection about authenticity. So I'd like to read another book review that we have from someone named Naz, who gave you 5 out of 5 stars. And this book, her review says, I bought this book for my 6-year-old daughter. Both her and I absolutely love it. I love that the story is simple and very interesting for kids and has such a beautiful message about being true to oneself. One of the most important lessons I try to teach my daughter in everything we do, to me, the best part was how being authentic doesn't need approval or applause from others. Now, that's another really deep and heartfelt book review.
Yes. And unexpected.
And unexpected.
Yes. Because you don't hear a lot of people talking about how it affects them. And so it's always about the children usually. So she really put her personal self out there in that
Absolutely.
review.
I mean, one of the things you and I talked about during the launch was I felt that it was a book for adults as well as kids, because as the person reading the book, there's always a takeaway, right? There's always some sort of message. But what I really liked about Naz's review was that she's made the connection between approval or applause.
Yes.
And I love that this is something that we're trying to teach children at a very young age, because being comfortable in your own skin, I think, is really important and a really valuable lesson to learn as an adult. I mean, some adults are never comfortable, right?
No. And I think even every year that I grew, or in each way that I grew, I'm always shedding another layer of realizing I've been seeking that. I have a keynote called Authenticity for Gentle Resilience. And that's basically what it's about. Like, if you're over explaining, if you're defending, if you're fighting in some way to stand your ground, you're still seeking approval. It's still looking for that applause. And when you get to the place where you're like, I'm responsible for this, and I welcome you to react or respond in whatever way.
All right, so here we go. This is from A Happy Shopper.
Yeah.
This beautiful book sends an important message about authenticity to children. Did you ever try to hide a perceived weakness or something you don't feel confident about? This book shows children and their parents that sometimes what we think is a fault about ourselves can, in fact, be a strength. I love that you're a mom first, Crystal Marie.
Yeah.
And I really love the introduction of your daughter on today's discussion, because I think that just goes, that's keeping it real, right? I mean,
I guess, yes. I try
this
to keep
is
her
life.
off of the internet, but sometimes you can't control what happens.
No. And
So,
I
yes.
hope with your permission, we'll leave her little
Yes,
antidote and talking about the fact that she really enjoyed the book as part of our interview today.
that's fine.
And you know, one of the things that I think that I would ask you to share at this point is, do you have 3 different words of advice that you would like to share with our audience, that that now that the book is launched and receiving all these wonderful reviews from people, do you have something that you would like to leave with all of us?
So I think the one that sticks with me, that keeps coming up, that I always forget about, well, 2 things. There's a phrase that I leave at the end of everything. It's as always, embrace what resonates and release what doesn't, because I find there's a lot of advice out there and a lot coming at us, and sometimes we forget that. The same thing with permission. We have a choice. We don't have to embrace it because it comes from this guru or this person that we respect. It's okay to have a different perspective on things. And the second one is self overflows, self-love overflows, or self-care overflows. This self overflows. So you have to take care of this first before you can go out there. And so taking the time to know yourself, to understand yourself, all the icky parts, all the comfortable parts. And very often when you wake up to that, when you come out on the other side, you realize that it's only icky because somebody else said that. All of your shadow stuff, what we call shadow stuff, is just mostly stuff that doesn't fit into the norm, but that adds something of deep value to the rest of the world if you explore it a little bit more.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's really lovely. And I really, wish you continued success. And I don't know if down the road we will see a sequel to The Brave Little Pufferfish, but I'm sure you're building quite an audience of adults and children who appreciate all of your endeavors. And it really was quite lovely to meet the young lady who was the inspiration for the book. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for having me, Trish.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. And to you, our viewing and listening audience, I'd like to thank you for joining us in this edition of Keeping It Real, where we introduced you to the person behind the logo. I'm Trish Tonai, founder and host for the series. And if you're interested in sharing your business story, visit our website at shareyourstories.online. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to meeting you next time when we share another great idea.